So, first time in a blimp, huh? Yep, it's not the most conventional method of travel, but to where we're going, it'll surely make an impact. Oh, weren't you told? We're headed towards the Sparkle Stadium, where they normally play games and, as for tonight, live concerts. You'll have the best seat in the house. Well, the highest one, that is.
Greetings from Confetti Land,
home of the Confetti Bar. I'm Jessica, founder and confetti artist.
And I'm Alexis, head of happiness. Join us here in this magical, colorful place where we
have fun,
feel feelings,
and encourage you to embrace your unique version of happiness and all of its beautiful, messy pieces.
We are so excited to have you join us.
Friends, today we have perhaps the most kindred of confetti spirits joining us. We're sitting down to chat with the one and only Jelena of the Confetti Project. Over the past decade, what started as an exploratory photo series has turned into a movement where Jelena uses play to help you embrace the mess and find joy amidst the chaos. Jelena, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like we're like sibling brands or something, or people. Do you know what I mean? It's like a homecoming, because I tell people like the confetti world, and now I'm in confetti land.
Yes.
I'm excited to be here.
All in the same world and universe of confetti. So obviously we're going to dive into all of the things, particularly as it relates to confetti. But to start, we have a few questions we usually like to ask most of our visitors. And I feel like this first one, asking you probably more than anyone, is like extra profound. And I might apologize in advance for putting you on the spot because I have a hard time answering this question myself. But what does confetti mean to you?
Yeah. I won't take it personally because I put people on the spot all the time using the tool of confetti.
Yes.
I think confetti, there's a lot of ways to answer this. I think we all know it's a lifestyle, right? It's an ethos. It's a way of living. It's a way of viewing life. But it's literally the symbol of celebration, right? Like it's this worldwide symbol of celebration for like thousands of years, which is very cool. I use it as, I didn't realize this, working with confetti for 10 years now, but I use it as a way for people to be seduced by like the happy and the celebratory and maybe like I wasn't allowed, right, to play with that as a kid. And then they come into the space where they get a chance to reconnect with themselves and the present moment, and they get to really feel like a kid again, right? Like really free and shameless and just expressive. So I really use confetti as this tool, like a portal even to back to presence and like belonging and self-love, and to really start to learn the life skills of holding duality within ourselves, which I think is really important. We talk a lot about like happy and fun and joy, but the other side of that is like holding space for how do you integrate joy in the challenge, in the chaos. We're getting right into this. I love it.
Yes.
So that's like one of the things, at least that's coming up for me today, that confetti could be defined as.
Yes, we are definitely going to chat more about all of that, but we'll start with our warm-up questions first.
That was a warm-up. I feel like that was a warm-up question.
I told you, I think for you in particular, it's more than a warm-up question. But
I think all of us probably just like to skip the small talk and get right to it. So probably for us, it's a warm-up question.
Yes.
Exactly.
So good. Well, another that we have is, what would currently make up the confetti mix of your life?
I actually thought about this one. I prepared a little. I try not to over prepare because I have this tendency, again, the confetti, to not always feel like I have to be perfect, right? And like prepared. But I think my confetti mix would be like a dash of sunlight.
Needed.
Yeah, it would be this song that's playing, Murder on the Dance Floor, that just had like this renaissance. It's like this disco dance song that just gets me dancing. I would say some red and turquoise and purple that's coming up for me a lot these days. And Jennifer Lopez doing her promotion for her new album, and she just like inspires me a lot. So yeah, and then I would say like some pieces of confetti that have like a little bit of like a like they're like shards, like they kind of have a little bit of a rough edge to them because seasonal stuff, depression, and feeling overwhelmed sometimes. And I'm in this part in my life where I'm trying to be like 4 people at the same time. I think you guys can probably relate to that. So there's a lot of like time and allocation of energy and all of that. So yeah, that would be part of my confetti mix right now.
That's a good mix.
I can see it now.
What about for you two? I know maybe I'm not supposed to put the questions back. But
you're welcome to. Most people don't, but you're welcome to.
Awesome. What would you say today is in your confetti mix?
Today, right now, okay. It would definitely be rainbow colors because I just have to have all the color. For me, it would, again, be a touch of anxiety and a little bit of, what's the word I want? I guess we'll go with overwhelm. It's a busy, busy time in life and day job and confetti and all of that. So trying to not be overwhelmed a little bit, which is a struggle. It would smell like homemade sauce that my mom used to make every Sunday because I've been feeling very nostalgic for that. And it would have a lot of gold glitter and some tears.
Nice.
Alexis, you're up.
All right. My confetti mix today. It would have some yellows in there. The sun is out. Makes me very happy. Also probably some gold flecks in there. It would have some book shapes because I'm in grad school right now and that is taking a lot of time. Lots of reading and all that good stuff. And then also throw in some little pictures of friends and family that I get to check in with either on the phone or in person, and still making sure that I am keeping up with those fun things amongst all the other work school things.
I love it. Every time someone answers this question, myself included, I literally like think in my head if I was physically making it, all the steps I would take and what color paper I would pull and all the pieces that would go in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's giving me like, it's like a how are you really kind of question. You know what I mean? It really makes you kind of check in with yourself, which, I'm always a fan of that. So I love it.
Yeah, I love it.
Very good. So to kind of go along with that, what are 3 things that make you happy?
I have to put a disclaimer that I have an issue with the word happy.
Okay.
I can't help it. It is like, we all have these kind of logos with words, right? Like you can say therapy and like 3 people can have radically different, definitions or connotations with that. For me as someone who's been a deep feeler, and again, embracing the duality, like happiness has been kind of weaponized against me, of like, just be happy and this and that. So, but I get what you're asking. So I'll just get on with the question. Things that make me happy, I would say my daily walks make me really happy. I tend to have a very cluttered brain. There's a lot of chaos in there. It's like things stick to me, right? And when I go out on the walk, it's like I feel like I'm in a music video. I put on these headphones. I am getting endorphins. I'm getting fresh air. There's strangers and dogs. I live right by the beach, so it's just so beautiful. And it really clears my head. So that would be the first thing. The second would be every morning for breakfast. I'm like a breakfast person. I can't skip breakfast. It's like it's like it sets the tone for the rest of the day for me, even how I wake up actually.
Yeah.
So I would say my morning ritual, like I stretch, I have a hot cup of water, and then I do this like spinach avocado egg situation that I just love. It like, yeah, it fills me up. And then I would say the third thing is, I would say my relationships, to be honest. You know, I live with someone, I have a partner, we've been together for 5 years, and it's, you know, as someone who loves their alone time and tends to withdraw when I'm going through stuff, which by the way, I came across something and it said like, if you have that tendency as a child, you weren't really helped when you were going through stuff. You had to learn how to do it on your own. I'm like, oh, interesting. All these personality traits or trauma responses. So I would say my relationships. I think the older I get, I just turned 34 and it's this week actually. So, you know, it's like, that's really the thing that feeds me and fuels me is my connection with other people. So yeah.
I love that. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
I do want to I like need to hold myself back because there's so many things that we do I think need to dive into. But before we go there, I would love to know, how do you personally celebrate both the big things and the small things?
God, it's so interesting when this is thrown on me because you guys, you came to the self-love lab, the last event that I just did. And I think that was there was a similar question in the questionnaire part. I am not great at this. It's very interesting. I don't know about you both, but up until this past year, I was like, the Confetti Project, it is my, you know, purpose, and it's how I'm in service. That's how I saw it as, right? I was like, I have these natural gifts, like curiosity, holding space for people, feeling people's pain and like feelings that they're not, you know, what they're not saying, I can feel. And I like put it all together and I created my own world with it. But it was only like recently where I was like, wait, like this is actually for me too. And it's part of my healing journey as well. So learning, you know, watching other people celebrate and having this whole life philosophy of, you know, just by virtue of existing, you know, is means for celebration. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to accomplish anything. You don't have to reserve it, right, for special occasions. It's like, you know, we know that quote. It's like being alive is the special occasion, right? I would say for me, I've been bringing confetti more into my home life, which I've always been resistant to because the amount of hours I clean other people's messes, and you guys have seen it, it's like pounds of confetti everywhere. If there's any nooks and crannies, like double the cleaning time, which is actually a really beautiful thing. I get to clean people's beautiful messes up, right? And for me, the number one rule, and I'm curious if you guys have any of these, you cannot get mad at the confetti. Like you cannot get mad. Even if the cleaning takes 2 hours, which it did, by the way, after that event that you were at.
I believe it.
It is a really beautiful meditation process for me to kind of like process the moment. So to answer your question, I would say that I slow down. That's always the first thing. Like take a moment and tap into what I'm feeling, right? Do I need to like express myself and dance or go do something like, you know, a fun adventure or see someone? Or is it more of an internal process, right? Of like reflecting, journaling, you know, whatever, reading, like all these things that I really love. So I try to actually intertwine these types of practices and rituals within my day-to-day. So, you know, even celebrating the mundane, right? Celebrating, oh my God, I'm like crying and I feel heartbroken, but I'm celebrating that I'm a human and I'm experiencing the full spectrum of what it means to be human, right? I'm choosing that courageous path. And I feel like all of us that choose that don't shut off parts of ourselves, right? And we embrace ourselves and we honor everything, right? Like that journey of self-love, that continual journey of self-love. Yeah, I would say that's kind of how I view celebrating like everything. So really the small things or the big things, they're kind of the same to me. But yeah.
Dig it.
What about you? I want to know about both of you as well. Like I've never met other people and like a brand that the way we even talk about something that, you know, people associate one way, and there's so many hidden layers of meaning, and it really is this kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
That I think that people are starting to wake up to, which is a very, very exciting for doing something for a decade, basically. So I'm curious for both of you as well, of like, have you seen that change also within yourselves, how it's, you know, how it's evolved and morphed, and like how you're feeling about it now in terms of like celebration as a, when I think of celebration, I think of play. You know, celebration is like a type of play, right? And it's like bringing play back into adulthood, because we lose that, right? For our well-being, for our survival. I believe that play kind of like reconnects us to that joy that we have, right? So when you think about it from that point of view, it's like, oh, if I'm reconnected to the joy of just being alive, of being human, of loving myself, this crazy stuff is happening and I'm pissed off and I'm, you know, whatever, but I can alchemize it with that to move through it and not get like stuck in it, which I think for me, I have a tendency to get stuck in stuff. So that's been really like transformative. But yeah, I'm curious, like for both of your experiences, what it's been like.
Yes. So I definitely want to dive into it a little bit deeper after, and I do want to kind of talk about this concept. But for me, confetti has always been my therapy. I mean, whether I realized it at the time or not, literally how I started this business started with me buying bags of like mixed sequins and like confetti, and I would sort them into those containers, like, you know, bead containers that have all the little sections, and I would literally like sort them by color or shape. And I literally would do it to like calm myself. And it was just something kind of mindless and meditative that I could do. And that's when it sort of hit me one day, like, gee, confetti is supposed to be this thing that is like the quintessential symbol for celebration, but nobody makes like really fun confetti. Like there's no confetti out there that really kind of showcases what it is meant to be. And that's sort of how we started it. And again, without sort of putting the pieces together at the time, but looking back, like that was my therapy. When I went through kind of a health journey, I'll say a number of years ago, I said, and I even kind of wrote about like how confetti saved my life. And it was literally the thing that kept me going. And to this day, and I too, you know, we celebrated our 10-year confetti anniversary last year. So we're right in the same timeline here. But it has always been my constant. And that is the one thing. And for someone who is a creative and a feelings feeler and who's kind of all over the place in a lot of ways, like confetti is the one thing I can count on, besides Clifford, but the one thing I can count on to be there for me in whatever form I need it. And it doesn't just have to be for happy things, and it doesn't just have to be for joy and play, but it's there for me no matter what I'm feeling. And that's what I hope to bring to the world with the confetti bar. So to me, confetti is therapy as a form of celebration for, like you said, but whether it's quote unquote good or bad, it's for all the things. So that's my take on confetti and celebration.
Love it.
Yeah. I don't know that I can like really pinpoint like where my love for confetti started, but my mom and dad were just really good at celebrating things growing up. And just like making a big deal about like birthdays and just lots of different things like that. And so I just feel like they really taught me like how important celebrating is. And then like moving into like my blog and wanting to like celebrate with other people and share like that like same passion of like it's so important to even celebrate the small things. And then getting to join Team Confetti, confetti's also been quite the constant for me. And it is just such a good reminder, even to myself as someone who likes to celebrate both the big and the little things, a reminder like, yes, do this. Even the other day, I like got a really good grade on something that I wasn't really sure how I was going to go. And I was like, I need to throw some confetti for this. And like, even just like in that little moment of like, hey, remember, like
You did
what
it.
you need to do the things, and yeah, celebrate that moment for sure.
I resonate with that so much. It's really interesting because the lifespan of confetti, it's like I literally have it here actually. It's always a red piece and it shows up when I need it the most. So when I'm taking life a little too seriously, when I'm getting a little too defined by my day-to-day, this shows up and it's like telling me like, Jelena, stop taking life so seriously. Just let go. Like you're safe. You can feel safe enough to just surrender and like let go in the moment. So yeah, I relate to that as well. And also like it's an interesting mood, like, you know, shifter, like alchemizer. I just did a video like a few weeks ago where I was in the worst mood. I'd cleaned confetti for hours. It was like rushing kind of triggers me. But I had a space and I was like, I wanted to shoot something. And my boyfriend was like, let's just do it. Like, it's not perfect, right? You're not gonna have an hour, but we have 10 minutes. Like we can do something with the 10 minutes. And to see the transformation that I've seen thousands of people do with, you know, through photography of like immortalizing that moment of like seeing me like I'm like clenching and I'm like and I'm in survival mode and I'm, you know, in a bad mood, and then the more I'm playing with the confetti, I'm like starting to soften, I'm starting to open up, and like all those walls start like coming down, and I'm like opening myself up to just the innate joy of just being in the present moment that we all have access to. Like it obviously helps to be in confetti, right? To like remind you, but we don't need that, you know, like we have that within us. So yeah, it's also interesting to see it like how it can shift your mood if you're like going through, you know, something or some density as well.
Yes, for sure. 100%.
Yeah, and like talking about that and talking about play, obviously Jessica, Clifford, and I had such a fun time at the Celebration Lab, and so we want to talk about that. So if you could tell us and all of Confetti Land a little bit more about what it is that you do with the Confetti Project.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for coming. That was it felt like a homecoming. It was like and you know, it's really funny in the spirit of vulnerability. You were in the first workshops. There was like three different, I'll get to what it is, but there were three workshops in a row, and it was a very tight turnaround. Like we did not, you know, when you're in New York City and you're renting space, it's a, you know, it's a thing. But I tried something in that first one and it did not land. I don't know if you guys ever experienced this, like as an event producer, an experiential designer, where, you know, I'd put this song on that had this like really like self-love monologue, and every time I listened to it, it made me teary and emotional. And I had this vision where people walked in and it's on, and then they sit in their seat and they just kind of like listen to it and drop into the moment, like meditation a little bit. But I didn't cue anyone. I didn't say anything. And everyone's just like, you guys were there. Everyone's just sitting there, and they're just like, you know, again, as someone that is very aware of time and like when you're guiding people through an experience, like if there's a flow, or if, you know, there's an energy, or if it feels like forever, like 3 minutes feel like forever because everyone's just like, what's happening? Like, this is weird. I don't know what's going on. So it's funny, you guys got to experience that. And my ego was like a little hurt in the sense of like, I've been doing these, you know, for the past year, these kind of workshop photo hybrid spaces with confetti. And that was the first time that ever happened. So I like cut it for the next, like out of the other ones. But it was I'm so glad it happened. Like, I'm just cause it was very fascinating. So anyway, what I do is I started taking photographs of people expressing themselves with confetti, and it was very organic, you know. And I want to ask you guys also a question of like, do you remember that first time, that like moment that you had with confetti, or like first moment where it was like as an adult, even where it was like very impactful, you know? So marinate on that, because we'll get back to it. I'm like taking the reins on this now.
Yeah, no, I love it.
But all these like signs happened with confetti that, you know, eventually led to, I'm in my 20s. I'm like, what do I do with my life? A lot of angst, achievement pressure. And like, I had it in the pockets of my leather jacket from weeks ago from like a show. And I like saw it on a sad day, and I got really happy. And I was like, wow, anything that could change your mood is so powerful. And so I started doing one-on-ones, like 2 hours, where it would be like a confetti photo shoot, but sandwiched with like an interview. So like there would be the beginning of an interview, and then people would, I would know when they're kind of warmed up, like starting to talk about their story. And then they would just like, it blew my mind. Like, you give people confetti and like pounds of it, right? And this is another part of confetti we haven't talked about. It's like the somatic part of it, like the physicality of like dousing yourself in it. And, you know, like what you were saying, Jessica, like how tactile it is, you know? And it's really making this beautiful mess, like a simulation of a beautiful mess that most adults are petrified of, or we're constantly trying to prevent from happening, right? And so I knew very early on that like, this is bigger than me. This is like transformative. And then it would finish with a deeper Q&A, you know, with like deeper questions like, what are you afraid of? How do you want to be remembered? That's what a lot of these photos are of, actually, in my apartment in Brooklyn, you know, mid-20s at the time. So then it evolved to working with brands and doing these kind of like pop-up activation like things where instead of 2 hours, it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And then the pandemic happened, and I, you know, had to take a break. This was also aligned with me going through this like deep depression and like, you know, identity crisis. And, you know, I had been really grieving my dad. This is a big part of my story as well. The first year that I started Confetti, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. So this year that I call of cancer and confetti, I was thrown into the duality of being human. I was like watching people like celebrate with confetti, or I was watching my dad fight for his life. And that really informed everything moving forward of like, pain and pleasure are always going to be intertwined, and that's what we have to celebrate, everything. So then when my dad passed away, like I made a conscious decision to keep doing this work and really dedicating my lifetime to this work, because there's so many people that are suffering. It's invisible pain. It's pain that, you know, they keep like that we hoard, right? Because there is mental health stigma still, even though we've come a long way. And we don't live in a trauma-informed society. So basically, when I came back from the pandemic, I was like, let me create spaces for community where it can be self-care and community care at the same time, and have this kind of workshop experience where it's like mindfulness practices with a reflection question that grounds everything, and then somatic activities with the confetti. So we're getting the body involved. I'm getting to ask deep questions, which is one of my favorite things in the world. And I'm really creating this framework of like self-reflection and self-expression with confetti that creates this world. And so I started doing workshops that I call them celebration labs. There's different themes. And the very last one that I did, which really raised the bar, because there was like a dinner table with like a workbook questionnaire with my personal library. I think it was 78 books. I counted after, with like flowers and, you know, all these things. So the production level is definitely being raised, but the last one was about self-love. And it really made me realize that what I'm doing is all about self-love. Like I don't know about you guys, but like I've been doing this for almost 10 years, and it's embarrassing how it's taken me so long to put words to what I do, because it's so intuitive, you know? So I was reading this book about play, and it's like they're describing the effects of play, and I'm like, wait, this is what people describe my photos as, like a release, like you're in the present moment. So realizing like this is really about bringing play back into adulthood, and, you know, really celebration. When you're in celebration of life, you're practicing self-love. You're on that journey of like embracing all the parts of you, you know, and really having awareness, right, of like what isn't your authentic self. And this comes a lot into like childhood stuff and our programming and conditioning and the unlearning and the redefining, right? But yeah, it's really giving people a safe space to slow down and to explore that, but with this like fun thing. And I do agree with you, you know, Jessica, you were saying that confetti's like therapy. The way that I've talked about it is that it's a healing modality. It's like this new healing modality, because as much as I love therapy, as much as I love reading and talking, our bodies need to get involved to have that release, because everything's stored in our bodies, right? So it's like, you know, I'm curious what your experience was like the residue of it, of like not only for yourselves, but being in a space with other people where as the time went on, it's like everyone's taking up more space, You know what I mean? The confetti that comes very, very packaged, like tightly, it's loosening up and it's getting bigger, right? And it's expanding and softening. And that's really the metaphor. It's the never-ending metaphor, confetti.
Yes.
That's what's happening within all of us, like as we nourish our inner worlds. So yeah, thank you so much for coming. And I would love to know like what, you know, because our confetti, also, by the way, I just want everyone to know that's listening, thank you so much for this gift. You gave it to me. It has like the date of the event. This was the color palette, the jar, and then it also has my logo, TCP in it. Like, thank you. So, this is one of the most thoughtful gifts anyone has ever given me. So I'm very grateful.
If anyone would appreciate it, it would be you. But the confetti jar is like, that's my attempt at the product that is meant to be like the everlasting kind of thing. Like just like you would put like a vase of flowers or, you know, a picture frame or something to commemorate, like the confetti jar is like that reminder that you use as it says, like a keepsake celebration and sort of keeping something more permanent from a product that most people see as ephemeral. So I hope and knew you would appreciate that one.
Thank you.
But I do have to tell you, so it was very interesting for me. So we had talked years ago. I'm talking like 7-8 years ago. I don't know. We had exchanged some emails. And so obviously like I knew you were doing these photos and we had even talked about it back then, like doing something, and it just never kind of worked out. And so, you know, as we got to chatting, and like I said, since dear Alexis has taken over our social media, like I really try to regulate myself and I don't go on too often. But every time I did, you know, Confetti Project was coming up again. And I was like, okay, like this is a sign, this is something. So I knew like we had to kind of reconnect. And then we talked about kind of doing this podcast, and I knew I wanted to not just meet in person, but like experience kind of a little bit of each other's world before we had a conversation, because I knew it would obviously make it more impactful. But you have to know, and I'm sure you are this way too, like a planner, right? Like not super like last minute and whatnot. So I think it was 2 weeks out from the event, and literally I was like thinking about it, and you know, because I'm in Connecticut, so New York is not far. But I was talking to Clifford, and I was like, oh, like I think we should go. I was like, but I genuinely like I wouldn't feel right going without Alexis. Like I think like this is something like we have to experience together. And I was like, I'm just gonna ask her. Like usually when she's been, because Alexis lives in Tennessee, so she's come up here a number of times. So it's usually like a couple months out that we like will plan a trip, and it's like a whole to do. And I was like, I'm just going to ask her. Like, I'll text her. I'm like, okay, you can feel free to tell me I'm crazy. I know, you know, she's in grad school. She has her own thing. I was like, you want to come to Connecticut and then go to New York in like 2 weeks? And she was like, yes, like we're doing it. I don't care. And so we just like totally last minute, both of us were like, it's happening. Very out of character. And it just truly like everything came together, like the timing of it all, the way our trip went, just everything was like, this was meant to happen. But being there, it was interesting for me to experience an event like that, being kind of from the perspective of, you know, an attendee. Because usually, not that I've done events exactly like that, but we've done different events throughout the years, especially when I had my studio, we did a number of kind of confetti events, and I've done like Monarch Workshop and all these kinds of things. So I'm used to being the one like kind of facilitating it and being that. So to experience confetti from a perspective that was outside of like how I kind of put confetti out into the world and everything was like really amazing, and a really like different way to look at it, because I think it is, for me anyway, very easy to kind of forget what I'm doing because I'm so in it and I'm so close to it that it is like I have to intentionally stand back and be like, no, like you can throw confetti too. You don't just have to tell other people to do it. And, you know, to experience it and put myself in that place in a way that would normally make me feel uncomfortable by it being just like sort of last minute and like all of that kind of stuff. It was the best decision I've ever made. And it definitely felt like it was meant to be on many, many levels. So I'm curious to hear Alexis's perspective, but that's mine.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I literally ran around my apartment after you texted me because it's been something that's like been on our little confetti bucket list, but we were just like, you know, it'll happen in the future. And genuinely, like we've both just felt so spontaneous about it, which some people are probably listening are probably like 2 weeks. You had plenty of, but no, that was spontaneous for us. But it was just so neat. Just like every detail walking into the beautiful table set with flowers and the confetti. And right off the bat, we were throwing confetti with introductions. And I was like, oh, I love this. This is how this is going to go. And I think, yeah, just like being so close to something and like encouraging other people to, like, sometimes you forget, which is so silly. But like just having such freedom to like throw all the confetti, and it was just a blast, like creating the space for that. And just so many good reminders, and just felt so inspired. It was a nice perk not to clean it up after, so thank you so much for doing all the hard work. But
that's the real confetti work.
It really is.
Truly.
It really is. But just so grateful for you creating that space, and obviously for Jessica being like, hey, let's go do this. And it was just so good.
Oh my gosh, I did not know this. That is because I'm a planner. Like my boyfriend is like the fly off, I'm really bad with American phrases, but like he's just off the cuff. Like he just can do whatever. I'm like, no, I need a moment to process this. So that is wild. And also it was your first time in New York, wasn't it? New York City?
It was.
Oh gosh, that was an experience
What
in
a
itself.
Yes.
Seriously.
Yes.
Truly.
We literally were talking on the way up. We were on the train. She had never been on a train either, and we took the train in from New Haven. So like it was a whole thing. But we were talking on the way there, and somehow we got on the subject of rats. And I was like, and I've been to this, I've been to the city, I don't know how many times in my lifetime. I've never seen a rat. It's fine. And of course, we're walking down the street and there's a rat. We're like, okay, at least we got to experience that. We got together.
It depends on if it's like garbage day as well. That's a big factor. Like if there's, because all the businesses put their garbage like out on the street. It's not in like a vessel, so it's just the garbage. And that's normally when it freaks me out the most, when they're like, coming out of it or like in it or something. But yeah, no, that's your initiation. That means you're like, you guys are initiated into New York City now.
Yeah, but we got lost on the subway. It's fine. Like it was we checked all the boxes.
We did.
Well, thank you so much for coming. It really, I think it's like, yeah, I just think for me, it was a milestone event. Like that was my 13th one. And I was like, I'm going to remember this, like this specific one, because I just tested so many new things with it. So yeah, so I'm glad that you guys were part of that. And I think, what you were both saying, I hard relate. And I think that's like the medicine for us, as these facilitators, right? As these, creators and holding space for a lot of people. I'm really contemplating getting my first tattoo. I don't know. I'm like obsessed with skincare. So I'm like, what it does to your skin. And I like learned about the like specifics, but anyway, like enjoying the process. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's really what Confetti invites people to do. It's like, let's stop. Let's, celebration. What do people do when they celebrate, right? Whether it's like a milestone or whatever, you stop, you take a moment from life, and you just are with people and you're just in the moment, and you're just enjoying it no matter what's going on. You're just taking a break from life. You're taking a reprieve. And so for me, it's always a challenge and an invitation and an opportunity to practice enjoying that process more. Yes. Am I playing like 10 different roles? And was I 2 days of not sleeping leading up to the event? And was I just on caffeine and all of that? But, the space in and of itself, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, like you could be feeling whatever, but it's like you get tapped into this collective energy that like, kind of overrides anything else that's going on in that moment. And that's what it did for me. That's what everyone that comes does for me. So really it's such a co-creation process. Like every workshop's different. Whoever comes to that workshop, I'm like thinking about Cliff and how when he was in the dance circle, I feel like he like really, because it's like people are always giving other people permission, right? To be weird or to be themselves or to like laugh or, express, especially as adults. And I feel like I remember a moment where he kind of just went like wild, was wild and like, that. And it really like you could feel energetically everyone else like getting like riled up in the best way. I think it was the dance circle, but so yeah. So thank you guys
has
so
that
much.
energy about him.
Yeah.
No, it was an amazing event. And I think too, what's always interesting for me is to kind of see like how parallel like our stories are, without having really known each other, like have known of each other kind of peripherally, but like haven't really known each other until just recently. But I learned a lot about you listening to your podcast, and you obviously shared a lot there. And, you know, okay, so we both started a confetti business about 10 years ago. We're both highly sensitive. We both lost our dads at kind of an early adulthood time in our lives. That was, you know, very kind of pivotal. And I think I would argue that we both are really trying to kind of redefine this idea of confetti in our own ways. Some of it is very like parallel and maybe somewhat a little bit different. But I think, you know, for me personally, while again, confetti means many different things, and there's a lot of layers and little pieces that go into it. For me, it's like really redefining it as an art form. And that's kind of, if I had to kind of boil it down, that's where I'm coming at it from. And I would guess, just by sort of what I know of you and from you, that maybe you're kind of redefining it as that tool or symbol for play. But I'm curious to hear from your perspective, if A, you agree that we are kind of both trying to redefine it, and how you would say that you are trying to redefine it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And like, we have, it's like crazy how many similarities we had when we've talked in the past. All those things that have like informed us. You know, I think this movement of like creative modalities it's becoming more and more of a thing, like at this day and age, right? It's like we've all experienced collective grief post-pandemic. Of course, the mental health stigma it's gotten better, but I think more and more people are waking up to new ways of living, you know, and really like deep diving into themselves of like what hasn't been working anymore, right? Because I feel like for me, like I'm always going to come at it from a mental health point of view because I struggle. Like I have complex PTSD. Again, I can feel people's pain. Like literally it's a blessing and a curse, because when you live in a place like New York City, it's like you can like walking down the street, like I can feel what people aren't saying. And it's really beautiful because people, like I can be a home, like a home for people, like my presence. And I try really hard to do that. A lot of us don't feel safe in this world, you know, a lot of us don't even feel safe in our bodies, you know? So it's like creating a homecoming for people. That's really what I want this to be. I want them to come to anything that I create or anything I do. And it's like, oh, I'm getting reconnected back to myself. I'm peeling back all of the walls and the layers and the triggers and, you know, all the things. And I'm getting to the core of who I really am. And also like appreciating the preciousness of life, right? Which for a society that's like very emotion avoidant and death avoidant, right? That can be really scary for people. But I'm really trying to redefine all these different things that like people would just be like, oh, it's a binary. It's like, oh, feelings are bad, mortality's bad, death is bad. And I'm like, no. It's like, let's hold space for the duality, because you're obviously suffering because you're completely shutting down all these parts of yourself that make you human, that are very real. So for me, it's always going to be like a mental health healing space, because that's what it's done for me first and foremost, for my grief, you know, with my dad, and how to transform that into beauty and meaning without it being like a toxic positivity thing, right? So yeah, but I do think that like it's so amazing that we're on this freaking like in this moment together, because it was a really lonely path for me. You know, I didn't feel like people were ready for it. They were always like, this is cute and this is fun and this is Instagram-y. And I'm like, yeah, it could be all those things, but you're not seeing how it's transforming people. Like the first time someone throws confetti, you see the release of like what they're carrying, right? That they might not even know, right? So I think you're absolutely right. I think we have, we do it in our different ways, and you're opening up my mind to, you know, even having it, you know, like we work with very different types of confetti. I think that's the biggest difference, like just visually that you can see. But you're expanding my perspective, you know, on it. And I'm the thing is like, this is something that's me and that I've created, but it's it's not just about me, and it's more than just me. And I'm always like, if more of us are in this movement of like joy and play in our different ways, and it's becoming more mainstream, and it's like really hitting cultural consciousness, I'm like, let's fucking do it. Sorry, I don't know if we can curse on this podcast, but like that's how strongly I feel about that. Of like we're moving the needle forward of like creative ways for people to just like feel human, I guess, you know, and like love themselves.
Yeah. I think that's too something like I particularly admire about you is, so I think we personally like come at it from a very deep place. And I admire that you kind of put that right out there at the forefront. And you're like, let's just go deep. Like, let's not even like mess around with any of the other stuff. Whereas I think my approach has been more of the like, okay, I get that a lot of people can't go deep really fast. And even though that might kind of be my lane, like maybe not everyone can. So I've approached it from like, let's take the confetti people know and recognize. Let's make it lighthearted. Let's make it kind of fun. Let's make silly photos with it and like all of that sort of stuff, but use that as the way to lure them in and then sort of hit them with the deeper stuff a little bit and sort of sprinkle it in and, you know, kind of get them to change their perspective a little bit if I can. So to kind of meet people where they are a little bit. But I think it's so cool. And I'm very interested to ask this question because for you, I think, and you can feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but because of the way you do sort of set up the Confetti Project and, you know, again, sort of put out there what it is, I think I would assume you mostly attract people who are like a little bit ready to kind of look at it from that perspective. And so they're already like saying, yes, like I'm willing to embrace confetti to a certain degree. Whereas my experience is because I do it in a way that's sort of product based first. And we've done a lot of different events, you know, where people are sort of in and out. And so I get reactions very much like, oh, like that's confetti. Like, nope, I'm not going in that tent. And like, nope, not going in that booth. And, you know, people have a very clear reaction to it. They either love it or hate it. And to me, without being a therapist or, you know, a professional, like to me, it's always been kind of indicative of how you show up in life. Like if you're not even willing to embrace like glitter or confetti or color, then you must kind of show up that way in all aspects of your life. But I'm curious to hear from you, like, have you had a similar experience, or do you find that because you are sort of trying to attract the people who are more accepting right off the bat that you don't have as much of that sort of love it, hate it? And
yeah, that's a great question. I definitely relate to what you're saying. I think only recently have I become more vocal. And what I mean by that is like I've been making more content about it, you know, and like really showing my philosophy, like the philosophy of this work, and like showing the layers of meeting with it, right? But when I was doing photos only, like before the pandemic, it would be all types of people that would show up. But it pissed me off over time because I made it look very easy where people would mistake me for like a photo booth photographer. You know what I mean? And there was always a mystique about what I did, right? It's like there's always the confetti squad. Do you know what I mean? Anything sparkly, anything like, you know, like it's really the people that are like explorers, you know, adventurers, like they're, you know, they're kind of the misfits, or they're the weirdos, or they're the ones like challenging the status quo, or artists, you know? And so they're automatically like, they see it or someone tells them about it. I did 50 open studios in New York, 2 each month for 2 years. And it was like the word of mouth from each one. There's like literally people connected between each one. But those people would bring like their partners, you know, or they would bring like family members that they want to celebrate, right? So I have experienced that degree of there's the believer and the person that gets it without even experiencing it. Because I do think there's a big difference. I think for me, telling someone about this versus them experiencing it is two radically different spaces, you know? So for me, it's like, I just want them to come experience it. You know, it's like you had to be there, you know? But when, you know, some of my subjects would bring the, you know, whatever, the haters or the non-believers or, you know, the ones that I don't even think it's like people hating it. I just think everyone's at different capacities all the time. And, you know, if it's something new, if it's something messy, it can really trigger like fear. You know, I really think like it all comes down to like being scared and like kind of, you know, getting small. Like there's so many people that come up to me that are like, I saw so many of these photos and I never thought it could be me until one moment, like you said, like it kept coming up, or, you know, I took it as a sign and I was like, no, I can be the main character of my story. Right. And I can be photographed. But I always loved the experience where it would be, like a woman that would come and she's dating a guy and he would like, you know, just be there for support. And I'd be like, oh, you want to throw confetti on her? I always am trying to engage people, like, you know, when they're in the space. And he was like, okay. He's throwing confetti.
The most into it, right?
And he gets so into it. And then I'm like, want to take a photo, because the way that I view photography is like, I'm immortalizing these moments. Like they're going to live beyond us, you know? And he's like, I don't really want to. And I'm like, just like one photo. And, you know, now the girlfriend's like, come for one photo, right? And then he like, they take a photo and he's the one that's, like you said, more into it. And it like, it unlocks this thing. It's kind of like, I feel like when people come into my space, I get to see them unlock their inner child. You know, it's like this wonderment and awe that we can kind of like detach ourselves from as adults, because, you know, our life can be so stressful and there's a lot of responsibility and we're tired and we're multitasking. You know, it's like you can kind of like become disconnected to that part of you. And so for me, it's like seeing that being unlocked, especially for demographics, like specifically for, if you've been conditioned as a boy, as a man, it's like you were taught not to feel or be vulnerable, right? So it's like, I see that for them, this can be a harder barrier to cross, you know, doing that. And, you know, my boyfriend has been to every single one of my events, would never seek this out ever, let alone pay for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's gotten the medicine of it because, you know, he's basically not only supporting me, but I'm like, there's the beauty is when you get out of your comfort zone. Like that really is what it is. And it's like when we're on our own journeys, like our inner journeys, it's going to be messy and it's going to be uncomfortable. It's not just rainbows. And like my most transformative moments have been very painful and have not just been the light stuff, you know? And I've had to like, you know, over time learn how to trust myself that I can navigate this and I can move through this. And so the more you get out of your comfort zone, the more you can strengthen that, you know, and I think that's a big part of self-love, right? So I really feel like the confetti meets you when it's meant to. Like for people, it's like some people, like both of you, have like, we've been wanting to do this, but it just hasn't worked out. And I'm like, don't worry about it. It's going to happen. It's going to happen at some point when everything aligns. Right. And so just like anything in life, it's like, we're given things that we're ready to, you know, like move through in that moment, like that we're prepared for. But yeah, it is really, I love it when men come into the space, I have to say. And there, for the one that you guys were in, I think, I mean, obviously, you know, Cliff was there. I think there were like 1 or 2 men per each one. And for me, I'm like, oh, great. You're the messengers. Like you were the courageous ones, right? To like go in there. And now you can tell other men who, again, have even more of a harder time, like I said, to be in community and open up and be vulnerable and like get that support, you know, that community support. So I don't take it personally. I used to take it personally, but now I'm just like, everyone needs this. They might not know it though, you know? And that's been the hardest part for me in terms of marketing. It's like, how do I market something that like, you know, not to make it transactional, but how do I tell someone like, oh, this is something that you really need, but you don't know. And you might have resistance to, you know, because a lot of the time, the things that we need, we can have a lot of resistance to, you know, in the moment. So I'm just like, let me make it as like slow motion confetti. Like I figured out my visual landscape with it. And yeah. So yeah, I definitely relate to everything that you said, Jessica, of like that thing. But I'm just like, let me make an amazing world that like the confetti, the workbook I've never done before. So that really kind of started it off in a very deep way that I don't even realize sometimes because I'm just always in this stuff.
Right.
Before it would just be introductions and we would actually start in a circle with the confetti piles. So it was a little bit more of like, okay, we're doing a workshop, but it's kind of like this class, you know, like a gym class, not really, but a little bit, but it becomes one, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the workbooks really kind of like brought people in a more intense way. Usually it's more of a slow burn of like the confetti seduces them. It's fun. And it's like, oh, that was deep. Oh, that was deep. Oh, that was deep. Right. And then it leads to the photo of like, you know, I'm fully in this joy state right now.
Yes. Sidebar, Alexis and I did talk about how there needs to be a confetti workout class because that would be one I would actually take. But man, my legs were burning for the next couple of days.
The squat,
Up
right?
and down.
Yes,
It's the
confetti
squatting.
squats.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We should think about that, because I think that I've definitely thought about that, like from a somatic point of view. And I'm starting to integrate more of those kinds of moves, like somatic moves for release or anger or, you know, whatnot, and like using the confetti. But I'm like, I could make this easier for people, but I'm like, no, there's a reason, because it's like the circle starts to get closer together. So for anyone listening, we're talking about a dance circle, but there's anyone that goes in the middle, like gets thrown, there's confetti thrown at them from like 360. So the circle gets closer, and it's like such a beautiful, I don't know if you guys have experienced, but like, you know, when you're like dancing or you're so in the moment and you could be so out of breath or like physically uncomfortable, but you're like I said, tapped into that flow state with everyone, that it's like overridden, you know. And I feel like it like tests that, like it kind of like is in that territory. And then I know when everyone's like tired, and then I'm like, okay, here's the dreamy, and then let's lay down in the confetti and shavasana and rest. And but yeah, it is kind of like a workout in a way, for sure.
Yes, no, for sure. And I didn't notice it. Like in the moment, I didn't have a problem with it, but then after the fact, I was like, whoo, that's physical.
Yes. Very much so.
There are many things and many directions I want to take this, but I think one thing I do want to make sure we have some time to talk about is this idea of using confetti as sort of a conduit to talk about mental health. And I think that that's something that means a lot to both of us. You've already kind of talked about it a little bit, but I think, you know, we each have our own experiences, some that kind of overlap a little bit, but this idea that confetti doesn't just have to be for something positive. And, you know, and it's not about, and this is something that I will say on every single episode of this, but for me, it is not about confetti as a means to just sort of like pretend everything is okay, you know, throw some confetti and like magically your life is better. But it's about using it as a symbol of hope, that even when things aren't going kind of the way you might hope they are, that they'll turn around eventually. And as long as you kind of stay committed to yourself and committed to finding those moments of joy, you know, you'll kind of make it through. And I know you talk about this a lot on your own podcast and everything, but I'd love to hear kind of straight from you here today, like what your goals are when it comes to using confetti in those conversations about mental health.
Yeah, I believe that we're just in the beginning of understanding mental health within ourselves as a society. Through my experience, I think that we're so conditioned to think of everything as binary. Like it's such a simplistic, reductionistic view of like being human, of what life is, right? And for me, like confetti is the alchemy for holding space for duality. So it's like when he passed away, I felt a lot of feelings at once that were very contradictory. Like I'm telling you, I could feel like 10 things at once, right? Or in a day, in an hour, right? And I think a lot of us also experience that, because that's how complex we are, right? Like as humans. And for me, like I said, I've been weaponized for this, of like being such a highly sensitive person, and also like feeling my feelings and my pain, you know, like in my families, it's like, it's a lot about toxic positivity. It's like, you know, you're allergic to anything but happiness, you know? And I think that we all don't give ourselves enough credit, and and it's like playing. It's like that play curious energy of experimenting with, okay, I could have the worst day right now, and I don't want to do the things that would make me feel better, right? I don't want to go for a walk. I don't want to do this, whatever. But it's like, how do you, and again, there's no formula for this, or there's no like, this is right, this is wrong. It's all about like checking in with yourself and like, you know, your intuition, right? Of like what you need, like in that moment, even understanding what your needs are, right? But it's like when I was grieving my father, like fresh, I would be one of my favorite like like grief poses was like on the floor hysterically crying in like fetal position. Like that was, and you know, someone could listen to that and be like, oh my God, that's so sad and I feel bad for her and whatever. But I in that moment felt such beauty amidst that heartbreak that I'm never going to see my dad again in physical form. And I was like, oh my God, I feel so alive right now. Like I feel like I'm accessing parts of myself that are so human at the same time, simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And that, again, it didn't make my dad come back. It didn't make my grief go away.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, it gave me hope, and I was able to alchemize that joy with my pain. And it prevented me from getting stuck. That's what I think it really is. It's like, it's very easy to get stuck in feelings and emotions, especially if you feel them deeply. And for me, it's been so beautiful. Like the confetti moves, it's spontaneous, it's messy, it's not perfect, right? So for me, that's really what I'm trying to show, like the metaphor of confetti of like, this is the alchemy of how we can hold duality in our lives. And that's how we can navigate challenge, right? And like adversity and uncertainty, like all the things that can make everyone really cynical and pessimistic and like really lose hope in humanity. It's like, it's training yourself to have that awareness and practice that, embrace the chaos, and like try to find the beauty and the meaning as much as you can in life, you know, amidst the challenge and the pain, not instead of, you know.
Right.
It's like what happens when those things, it's like an amalgamation, right? It comes together and it fuses together, and there's always beauty there. There's always beauty there because you're being authentic to yourself and you're being present. And that's what I tell people when I take photos. It's like, you don't have to pose. You don't have to be like, my arm looks skinny doing this or whatever. It's like, if you're just in the moment and you're having fun, that's another thing, giving ourselves permission to have fun, right? Amidst all of that, right? My dad is like a refugee and an immigrant, and he had the most, I've never met anyone that had more loss than he has, and like pain and grief. And it's like, how did he survive? He survived by having fun, taking breaks, and like finding the beauty and the meaning. So that gave him hope to move forward. That's the reason why I exist, right? So yeah, that's like, I think what makes what I do like different from other healing modalities. I think with all of us, right? It's like, it's physical, but it's also like integrating all the parts of us, all the parts of being human, right? But I also, Jessica, what you said, I really love this notion of like confetti as an art form. One of my signature moves with confetti, with photos, is shampooing yourself, like confetti shampoo, like a shower.
Yes,
I just love this embodiment notion of like, you have confetti and you're just like letting go, like in the moment. Those are some of my favorite photos that I've taken. But what I've started telling people in the past, like since last year, was pretend that like the confetti, like it's this new language to express yourself with. And it's like you're making paint strokes with it, but it's moving. It's, you know, joy in motion, if you will, right?
Yes.
And that's what I've been telling people. And I think, you know, this notion of creativity is so important because a lot of people don't think they're creative, or they, you know, don't identify with that. And it's like, living is a creative act. Feeling is a creative act. Navigating challenge is a creative act. So it's like, the more that we, and it's a muscle too, creativity, everyone has it. We're all born with it. So it's like, as kids, right, we were playing and we were being creative, and then we're losing that as we get older, and then all of a sudden we're not playing and we're not being creative, or we don't feel like we're creative, right? So it's like, how do we infuse creativity back into it? And it's like, with my subjects, they're the arts. Do you know what I mean? It's like them and the confetti. They're two subjects, and they're creating this art together that will never be the same because every person's different and every moment is different, right? So I really resonate with that as well, in terms of being not just like a mental health, you know, healing modality, but also as an art form. Because I think the way, you know, we're talking about like loving yourself and awareness and mental health, but it's like the way you get to that is through having fun, is through creativity, and is through being messy and playful. Like we have like the solution to what so many people are suffering from or have problems with. I'm including myself in that, by the way.
No, it's actually funny that you kind of went in that direction, because our sort of unofficial theme for this season is the concept of art and just,
Mhm.
you know, that idea of creativity. And obviously, you know, I come at it from a very artistic perspective that I do like hand mix every batch and like actually create the confetti, not just physically, but how I design it. And then like encouraging people to use that as an art form to then go create other things and, you know, to sort of unlock that creative part. And I just love that, like, the difference for you is like the people that you work with, like they're the art. You are literally like putting them at the center of this confetti art, which I think is really, really beautiful.
Thank you. I would love to see a behind the scenes of from start to finish of you creating a batch. Just saying. I think so many people would be into that if you're just planting a seed, no pressure or anything, but
I need Alexis here to document that. I'm so terrible. Like that is my weakness. I am so like in it that I never think to like record and film, and constantly I'm like, probably should have put the camera up for that one.
I'll talk to Emmy Joy.
I've been this year I've been really identifying with being a content creator, and it is the most time consuming thing ever. I never feel like I have enough time for it, but I also really enjoy it. So I think it's like understanding like if it's your thing, like if you want to dedicate, you know, the commitment, right? Like to it. But then if not, have an Alexis, right? Or or outsource, you know, like someone that does.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's tough too. I don't even know if you know this, but right now, like I do also have another full-time job. So like I'm usually like in the dark at night. And so even just the thought of like making sure I can set it up and there's enough light and everything, I'm just like, ugh, can't do that today. So yes, I need Alexis here all the time.
I'll move to Connecticut tomorrow.
Your room is ready.
Not even like in waiting. General. You're like, tomorrow I will move.
I'll be there.
We're putting all the vibes out into the universe that Alexis and I need to be physically in the same space.
I already see it as that. I didn't know that you guys lived in completely different states. So yeah, I already feel like you guys do.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, confetti soulmates.
So good.
Okay, the one last thing I want before we kind of get into our very last segment, and we sort of covered this already in various ways, but I want to just make sure that we dedicate a little time about how your own experiences have shaped how you view confetti. And I'm particularly interested because, especially when you went through everything with your dad, like you had already started the Confetti Project. So you sort of had confetti and kind of knew to work through it in ways. And again, like you said, you sort of saw both sides of life in those moments. Whereas for me, it was very different. You know, I lost my dad before confetti found me. And, you know, and so I only honestly just recently have sort of worked through a lot of sort of the trauma from when my dad passed away, and now kind of looking back at how confetti has been a part of that. But I'm curious from your perspective, what confetti has meant as you are processing your own grief and going through sort of your own transformation.
Amazing questions. Again, in some ways I'm aware, in other ways it's embarrassingly slow how not aware I am. But I would say I've been in survival mode like up until the past year, to be honest. So with that, there's a lot of new insights that have come up of like, you know, just taking stock of my life. I would say, you know, first of all, it wasn't a coincidence timing wise for me that like I put it as like my first hero was dying and my first purpose was being birthed, right? Like it gave me the gift. I started it like a little bit before he started getting sick, like maybe a year before. So like you said, it gave me the gift of being in the cancer and confetti, right? The duality, right? I got to really live that enough that I'm like dedicating my life to like showing people that, you know, that's a really important life philosophy to really have a fulfilling life. So by the time you get to the end of it, you don't have regrets, you know? I think it helped me when he was sick. Absolutely. Because like I said, it gave me a reprieve from being on the front lines of, you know, the cancer war. Right. So that helped me a lot. I also think I have to say, like, even before I answer this question with confetti, I was just talking to a friend this morning, and it's like having parents that are immigrants that are from Eastern Europe, they use a lot of shame and guilt to get you what to do. It's very manipulative, but it's like tough love. It's like all they know. And so my parents spoke about mortality from a very young age. Like they would be like, when me and my sisters would fight, they would take it so personally, and they'd be like, you need to be close with your siblings and you need to do good in school for opportunity, right? Because we're not going to be around forever. Like that, age 10, I'm not even joking. So I had a healthy relationship with my mortality. I knew what kind of life my dad wanted. I knew what life wasn't worth living for, like if he lost all of his independence and sovereignty. So I think when it was time to advocate for him and seeing him on his deathbed, I was strong in that. Like I had the vision for it. And I think that really helped me with grief, because now it's like, I don't know, everyone's story is so different, but I think for me, my grief is more of a daily inspiration. I'm like thinking of my dad. I'm like, I'm so grateful that we got 26 years together. His love is like still, it's for the rest of my life. It's gonna, fuel me. Right. And then there's like moments where it really hits me and I miss him, and like something happens, and like his birthday is the day before mine. So it's like a very, lots of processing. But what I would say is when my dad died, I lost my family. I didn't just lose my dad. My mom and my sisters and I, we went our different directions. As we know, in families, we all process things differently. Right. And, I very much felt like an orphan during that time. I spent so much time alone. I lived alone, and all I did was, work with the Confetti Project, or I was decompressing and sleeping for like 12 hours. Like it was, and not realizing that wasn't really normal, like to just chronically be sleeping. But I like to think of it like my community, they became my chosen family, because what helped me not go down a really dark path. And I say that in the sense of like anyone that's not getting the necessary social connection, right? Like, like things just start to kind of like, so all I had was confetti at the moment. And I got to witness people celebrating other people and themselves. And that I was able to process my grief through that. I was also able to dissociate a little bit through that. I was also able to kind of hide behind that, as like a 20, something year old. But even to this day, when I photograph, I've been starting to do private like bookings again, like photo shoots. And usually it's a lot of families. And I was like recording myself because I'm editing, and I'm, you guys have seen how I photograph. I overshoot. It's a lot of curation of like all the elements coming together. And there was this family that I photographed in December, and I am just like witnessing them in these moments. I'm crying and getting so emotional, because as someone that doesn't feel like I really have that like close-knit family that I always wanted, it's such an honor to witness it in other people and to hold space, because it was like this woman who's a matriarch and she's the glue of her family, and they all wanted to celebrate her for her 70th. So yeah, I would say that the confetti's definitely given me hope, and it's given me a distraction, and it's allowed for me to be with other humans, like during a very, very painful and like isolating, lonely time for me, for sure. Because if I didn't have it, I just would have been alone 24/7, and who, only bad things can happen from that. So yeah, I've actually never answered that question. That was a really great question. Thank you. All the questions are, but that really made me think.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the more interesting things. Again, we have a lot of similarities, but that's probably one of the more unique kind of shared experiences, even though in very different ways. So I'm very curious to talk about that aspect of it. Alexis, you want to bring us home with our final bit of fun?
Yes. So this is our confetti dance circle, if you will. Our super silly segment. just for fun, we're going to ask you some random rapid fire questions. So the idea is not to think too much about your answer, but just giving us your initial unfiltered thoughts. So Jessica and I will kind of alternate asking the questions, and I'll kick us off with the first one. Would you ever be best friends with a turtle?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
I like the confidence. If you could only wear one color for the rest of your life, which one would you choose?
Rainbow? I'm trying to
That
get a
would be
loophole
my
around
cop-out.
that.
That would be my cop-out answer. Anytime someone asks me my favorite color, I say rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
Runner-up is metallics, like anything metallic, like gold or bronze.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, I don't know if Alexis would be able to guess mine, but I'm going to make her guess. What do you think I would say besides rainbow? Because it's not rainbow.
Besides rainbow, what color would you choose to wear? I'm scared. Because I don't want to get it wrong. Would you say pink?
I don't want to get it wrong.
Would you say
There are
pink?
no wrong answers.
Would you say black?
No, I would not. I would say black. Surprisingly, I would say black because then it would highlight all the other color I would surround myself with.
I almost said black first, but I switched and panicked and picked pink. But literally,
She panicked.
I would have said black too, which is a shocker. But yeah.
Can we all do these rapid fire questions? I want to hear your answers
We
too.
can.
Okay.
We
Oh,
can.
sure. We'll go. Okay, we'll have you answer first
We'll
every
start with
time.
this next one.
Yeah, and then
yeah.
I guess one of us will just jump in. Oh wait, is it my turn to ask? Okay, yes. Would you rather own a horse the size of a cat or a cat the size of a mouse?
Ooh. I think the first, own a horse the size of a cat.
That was
I
gonna
like
be my
horses
pick.
more than cats.
I'm going a cat the size of a mouse. How cute, like a little tiny little kitty cat. If it fit in your little hand, it would be so cute.
I feel like I would be afraid I would sit on it.
You get a little house, a little cat mouse house.
Cat mouse house. But yeah, that's how
Oh,
I feel
goodness.
about a horse being the size
That
Same.
would be
of
adorable
a cat
as
would be
well.
pretty cute. So yeah, that's my final answer.
Okay. Why is there such a thing as unsolved mysteries? Aren't all mysteries by nature unsolved?
Wait, was that a question?
Yes. Why is there a thing as unsolved mysteries? When all mysteries are unsolved. Why aren't they just mysteries?
It sounds better. I think it's a marketing thing.
Marketers ruin everything. And I say that as someone who does marketing for my day job.
Because it's like, ooh, what happened? You know, it like really feeds into that part of our, human brains of like, ooh, I want answers, like the investigation, like take me on a ride.
Unsolved sounds very much intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
Okay.
That was deep.
It was.
I like to ask the hard-hitting questions here.
I'll be thinking for the rest of the day on that. Do you need to set up an appointment to see a psychic, or will they be expecting you? Whoa.
I would say make an appointment. I'm such a planner. I'm like such a planner, but I do think that like there's even mystery within that of like timing and kismet and synchronicity and all of that. I don't know. Even though I've been watching a lot of Staten Island medium, Teresa Caputo. I don't know if you guys know her, but she's incredible.
I'm intrigued by it. I can't say I've ever experienced a psychic, but my mom recently had an experience with one.
Really?
And I'm very intrigued.
Well, thinking about mysteries, it's like I think there's a lot that we don't have answers to that can't really be, figured out.
I I agree.
It's true.
More questions than answers. That's the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
But we're still going to ask some questions here. So, if you had to eliminate cake or ice cream from the world forever, which one would you choose?
That's so mean. I have such a I have such a sweet tooth. Oh my gosh. I mean, you can still have ice cream cake.
True.
That's a
True.
like yeah. You can have a cake with like a scoop of ice cream on top of it. Yeah. So I guess I would. Oh gosh. I guess I would eliminate ice cream. It's so sad. It's such a sad statement.
I'll shed a tear.
What about you guys?
I think I would go cake. I too find this to be a very difficult question, but I think I would go cake because I do think I prefer ice cream as a whole. I feel like ice cream you get like a little more variety because there's like so many different flavors and kind of combinations where yes, you could have a lot of different kinds of cake, but like it's still cake and not quite as much of a variety as ice cream.
It's fair.
I pretty much almost always have ice cream in my freezer. So for that reason, I will eliminate cake. But I'll be sad because on those special, more rare occasions when I do have cake, I do enjoy it. But because I eat ice cream on a more regular basis, I'm keeping it.
I feel like I've been more disappointed by cake than I have by ice cream. I don't know that I've ever had an ice cream with maybe the exception of one that like was like, this is bad. Whereas cake, you can have it dry or just kind of So I think that's why cake has disappointed me more than ice cream. So that's why it has to go.
You want that reliability. You want that security. I get it.
I need to count on it. I need to be able to count on my ice cream with the exception of macaroni and cheese ice cream. Don't do it. Just it's a mistake.
Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. I
had to. Yes. Neither did I, which is why I felt like I needed to try it. Big mistake.
Wait a second.
It's a thing.
Wasn't this a super silly segment question about if you had to make something? And didn't you say mac and cheese ice cream?
I did.
This is a thing?
I can't believe I didn't. Okay, sidebar. I can't believe I didn't tell you A, because yes, that is 100% true. And B, Cliff and I were just talking because when we recorded the episode with he and I, and you had asked something about like, what's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten or like something like that. And then we were like, we should have said the macaroni and cheese ice cream. Yeah, no, I saw it one day in the store and I was like, oh, like, if they made it a thing, like it can't be bad. It must be one of those like things that you think is like super weird, but it must be amazing, right?
Yeah.
So how could we not try it? And it was literally like, it was a collaboration with Kraft, like actual like the Kraft brand, and I forget which ice cream company it was, but it was gross. Cheese should not be an ice cream. I'm sorry, it just shouldn't. So yes.
This is good to know.
Never again. But at least I can say I did. So,
yes.
Anyway.
Okay. I'm sorry that I derailed us. I will get us back on the train track. How many elephants would it take to lift the Empire State Building?
I would say like 1 million.
Okay.
It's a lot of elephants.
Yeah.
I have absolutely zero concept of that whatsoever.
I'm just gonna say ditto to that one because I think 1 million elephants would be needed.
How would they lift it? Just with their trunks? They don't have hands.
Oh my gosh. Well, that I feel like changes the game.
That's what's going through my mind. How would they lift it? First of all, that would help me determine how many it would take.
Well, how do you even lift it to begin with? Do you know what I mean? Because it's like in the ground.
Yes.
I guess it would be like maybe from the top down, and there's a lot of technology, and the elephants were being used as like a tool.
You'd have to tunnel under. I don't know. Something would have to happen, but a good example of how questions sometimes just lead to more questions.
Seriously.
Okay. Our last silly question. What does a rainbow taste like?
I just keep thinking about Lucky Charms. Like
There's marketing. See,
Yeah,
they've
right?
ingrained it into your brain.
Seriously. Seriously. Yeah, that's what comes to mind. Cereal comes to mind.
Cereal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I can dig it.
That's a good one. A
I
smoothie.
would like to think. Do you have one, Alexis?
Yeah, sorry. I was
Okay,
just
go
going to
ahead.
say a smoothie is the first thing that came to my mind. Like all the different
Smoothie.
fruits making up the rainbow,
smoothie.
blended together. That's what it tastes like to
Mm.
me. All right, what's yours, Jessica?
I feel like it would taste like sparkly, like almost like pop rocks. Like I feel like I've had this answer for something else, but like that's what comes to like something that was like pop rocky, sparkly in my mouth, but I feel like it would be like citrusy.
Mm.
Okay.
I don't know why. That's my gut. That's my gut feeling.
I like that feeling.
All right. Well, thank you for indulging us in those random questions. My last two real questions. First, I would love to know, what is your biggest confetti dream?
I would say to have these like celebration institutes or, centers like all over the world, like different, like bringing it international, and they're all different because everyone's, the culture's different and the people are different. Yeah, I think that's like the long-term, like lifetime goal of
I
how
love
this
that.
lives beyond my life.
That's such
love
a good
that.
dream.
What about for you guys? Sorry, I just want it to be a
no,
conversation. I'm like, I want to know.
For me, it's always been to have some portion / version of the confetti bar that is like a nonprofit and some way to bring it to people who really need it and not just have it be an e-commerce business, even though, there's aspects of that I really love, but I genuinely would love to have some part of it that was more in the nonprofit world.
We'll have to talk at some point because I too have been toying with this like foundation idea of like bringing it to schools and just from people asking me, and I'm like, they don't have the budget, but I want to bring it there, right? So we'll have to chat about that at some point of like combining forces or learning together amidst that.
I feel like regardless of what happens, there is some TCB times TCB in the future.
What's TCB? Sorry. I'm like, I feel
the confetti bar.
Oh, yes,
the Confetti Project, which is another thing where our little initials are very similar.
Sorry, I thought I have friends that are talking abbreviations like TLDR. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I'm so like millennial and old. So yes.
It's fine. No, we're the same age. See, that's another thing we have in common.
Wait, when are your birthdays? I'm curious.
Mine is Halloween.
Wow.
And I will be 35 this year on Halloween.
Wow.
Alexis is a little younger.
A little bit. Mine's May 16th and I'm 27. So still rocking the, I don't know, what is this? I'm going to count it as mid-20s, even though it's probably late.
Just you wait. 30s are, I love the 30s way more than the 20s. And I had a feeling I would, because I was a grandma in my 20s and everyone would make fun of me. Like, why are you going to bed early? Why do you care about your skincare? Like, why are you like stretching every night? And I'm like, just you wait. Like, and now I feel like it's more normalized. And I think everyone just comes into their own every year more and more. I don't know. Yeah. Do you agree, Jessica?
I do. No, I was excited to turn 30 because I had heard that a lot, that your 30s are better, and I would agree. Overall, I do think it is. I think for me, because I had my daughter in my 30s, that added a whole nother layer, so that's a little separate. But on the whole, I do appreciate 30s better than 20s.
All right, we'll have things to look forward to. I'm excited.
We're all like spread out. Like I'm the day before Valentine's Day. You're like spring, like right before summer, and then you're on Halloween. Wow. Yes. So is it a love-hate with Halloween?
I always really enjoyed it because I got presents and candy. So growing up, it was fun. My brother, who is 2 years older, likes to tell the story of how I ruined his Halloween the year I was born because he didn't get to go trick-or-treating. But he was 2, so really, were you going trick-or-treating anyway?
Yeah.
But no, I always really enjoyed it. I think it's funny, though, because like I'm not – I think we talked about this in a birthday episode, but as someone who is all about celebration and stuff, like birthdays to me, I'm not like big on like making a big to do about it or anything. Cause to me, I like the more like self-reflective celebration on my birthday and just sort of, not having it be about kind of a party or anything like that. So it's kind of fun to have my own little moment with my birthday, but then to kind of see people celebrating Halloween. So there's still this like atmosphere of celebration, but it's kind of the focus is off of me.
I completely agree. I actually did that this year for the first time, where I celebrated my birthday the day before on my dad's birthday, which kind of made it like, him and me.
Mm-hmm.
And then the day of my birthday was the snowstorm, like the first one. And I was like, I'm home alone, like movies, walks, reading, journaling, like with all the, nature's confetti, if you will.
Yes.
So I'm like, I'm going to start doing that like every year, like actually doing what I want on my birthday and then doing the social things. And what I mean by that is just dinner and a movie, which is my favorite thing to do.
Yes.
But yeah, I love that.
Still getting out is a lot. Yeah, no. And I love that too. And my husband and I, we got married on my dad's birthday. So that was.
When's your dad's birthday?
August 12th.
I didn't realize that was your dad's birthday. That's cool.
Yes. And my one and only tattoo has to do with my dad as well.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that. Like, I know I'll do something, but I'm like, I think, again, with a lot of things in life is just trusting just the flow of your life. And I'm like, I know it'll come to me when it's meant to come to me. But
I will say I don't regret getting my tattoo at all. And it's very meaningful for me, for both like my daddy and my grandparents. But if I had to do it again today, I would do the same concept, just in a slightly different way. But I honestly forget I have a tattoo a lot because it's like right between my shoulder blades, so I never see it. So I forget half the time that I even have it. But it's there. It's my dad's handwriting. We used to like write notes to each other, and he used to call me Munchkin. So I had like a bunch of notes that he wrote. So it says Munchkin in his handwriting.
My friend, so similar to her mom, she has it like right here. And her mom became nonverbal the last year of her life because she had something with her throat, the disease. And she would write notes and it would be like, love mom. And she has love mom. And I'm like in her mom's handwriting. And I'm like, oh, that's so beautiful. Like to actually have, I love that.
Yeah. It is meaningful. And then I have a butterfly that goes with it because I think I had mentioned, and this is a sidebar, but the concept of like butterflies was really important to my grandmother. And their last name was Fluter, which kind of meant butterfly. And she was obsessed with butterflies. And both my grandparents, who were like second parents to us, they actually both passed away from cancer the year before my dad passed away. So butterflies, and that's why the whole concept of flutter and kind of playing around with that idea of fluttering confetti and all of that means a lot to me. So
it's so beautiful.
All right. We know all of our confetti people are definitely going to want to know where you are in this confetti universe. So where and how can people connect with you?
Yeah, theconfettiproject.com is the website. That's a whole world in and of itself. I'm like, if you can't come to, me or New York, it's like explore the website. The Confetti Project on Instagram with underscores between each word. Also on Pinterest. And a YouTube channel is coming out soon with the same name. Yeah. So yeah, stay tuned. But yeah, that's where you can find me. And just email me if you want to talk. I love emails from people. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, while I am very sad that our chat is over for now, I know it is just the beginning of many more confetti chats to come, but we would love to return the favor of visiting your confetti event with just a small taste and send you off with a little bit of confetti bar goodness by having our confetti poppers.
I'm so excited.
All right. I'm going to do a 1, 2, 3, and then we'll all go at the same time, okay?
Okay. All right.
Everyone ready? All right. 1, 2, 3. Yay!
That was a wave. That was a nice wave of like different times. Oh my gosh. It's such a beautiful mix. I love it.
It's all rainbow. I know it's all on my sweater.
Yeah,
too.
it's stuck better to my
I
sweater.
cried today's sweater.
Again, the black making the color pop.
See, that's what it's all about right now if I had to pick. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I literally could sit here and talk all day and still,
Likewise.
have more questions and things. So I hope this will not be your final visit to Confetti Land. And I'm sure all of our confetti people will definitely be following along. And this is just the beginning of this confetti revolution for all of us.
Perfectly said. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored. This is my welcome into Confetti Land, and I can't wait to be back and to, just be in each other's worlds of confetti and celebration. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
We're here. And by the sound of the crowd, they know it too. Hey, want to have some fun? On the count of 3, press that rainbow button over there. And be ready for some colorful fun. 1, 2, 3. And that's how you end a show, with confetti from the sky. Isn't it beautiful? Imagine if you were the one who had to clean it all up. All right, let's head on back. We've got one more thing to do.
For more fun, join us on the socials at the Confetti Bar. And you can join the Confetti Club to receive free inspiration delivered to your inbox at theconfettibar.com/join.
Thanks for visiting!
I told you to imagine cleaning this up, because that's what we're doing.